think we are going to get a glimpse of the Inquisitors in Bad Batch.
I just don't know why you would, personally. I think this is just going to be a clone Empire story. I just don't know what place they would have in it.
That the Bad Batch could come across a surviving Jedi from the Purge, and you could bring in an Inquisitor anyway.
Sure, I mean, that could be possible, yeah.
And we know Rex is in Bad Batch already to some extent. So especially if they do multiple seasons, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they might do a recanonized version of the Ahsoka novel story.
What do you mean a recanonized version? It is canon.
Well, some aspects have been contradicted, like the Mandalore stuff, and hell, even the comics with Kanan and Depper. Point is, I don't think it's on the realm of possibility for us to get an on-screen version of what happened in the Ahsoka novel.
Regarding that novel, it's safer than most because it had direct input from Dave Filoni and Ashley Eckstein and all of that. The only thing that is directly contradicted with that is, as you say, the Mandalorian flashbacks, but I tend to think they were using an early draft of the Siege of Mandalore as the basis of that. So I can let that slide a little bit, but the main story is fine. It's not contradicted by anything. I feel like there's room for potentially crossover for Ahsoka to turn up because it would have to be in season 2 or something.
Yeah.
Sure. The novel covers the first year of her exile, showing what she does on Nebraska, then Rada, and how she joins the Rebel Alliance, how she meets the sixth brother and takes the crystals and gets her white lightsabers. That's all covered in the book. But you could potentially have the team cross paths after that, potentially.
I don't know. I'd love to see her get the white crystals on screen.
Yeah, but what's the story being told there, though?
Well, it's the same question. It's leading back to that same basic question of why the Bad Batch, then, isn't it? Because what purpose does that story serve?
We've got it in novella form. What does it bring to the table having it in visual format? Why bother spending the resources retelling this one thing in novella form when we can dedicate things to telling new, fresh stories that directly expand the reach of further branches?
Okay, well, I think there is precedent for it because when Ahsoka came back in Rebels, she was a returning character from Clone Wars, beloved, but still in the grand scheme of things, somewhat obscure. But with her resurgence in The Mandalorian and her having a much more kind of publicized role in Star Wars media going forward, I think for a general audience, some people who have not read things like the Ahsoka novel, then there's precedent for them to produce an on-screen explanation as to where she got the lightsabers.
But hasn't that already been answered? Isn't that what just Lawrence...
This is the point I'm making.
And look, listen, I'm sure the whole beginning, middle, and end of her getting her lightsabers is well explored within the book. The book does not mention, I'm sure, the Bad Batch. So in the episode that has Ahsoka getting her lightsaber, the Bad Batch can't even take part in that without contradicting.
I'm not saying that this is an arc that needs to happen for the sake of hammering down Ahsoka because she's become a much more major player in the grand scheme of things now, and they're trying to appeal to a more general audience and get her out there. I think that it's something they might very well put to screen.
And I just return to my original point of if you're prioritizing your media output, I think you're less likely to dedicate resources to retelling a story that already exists in a tangible format. I think they're going to dedicate more resources to telling new stories that actively push more important narratives forward.
She's already been in Mandalorian. She's been in Clone Wars. She's been in Rebels. She's going to get her own show. I don't actually want more Ahsoka. I don't want her to appear in Bad Batch. I know Lawrence would disagree, but I just don't actually want her that much.
Yeah, but we've got that story in one form. We don't need to adapt it into another.
From a purely business standpoint, as Lawrence says, they can buy it as a book. So why do we need to put in the money and the effort into adapting it, which takes time, resources, getting actors, whether you go with Ashley or Rosario? It'd be like, say, adapting this. Like, it exists as this.
Yeah.
Okay, I see your point.
Anthony, on that though, the Thrawn book was adapted into a comic.
Well, that's different. Like, book to comic is slightly different.
And I think
because that's adding a
more
new element.
realistic, though. That's more realistic, adapting the book into a comic. But yet again, why spend the resources doing that? Because on the grand scheme of things, the Ahsoka novel, compared to the other book ranges out there, it's not exactly the top of people's buying lists. It's not even Del Rey. It was a Disney published young adult novel. It's not, it's not on high on the promotional list of Disney's outputs.
And I don't think any of this is actually as big of an issue as we're making out to be. It's literally the big issue with the concept is just that it doesn't make sense to be in Bad Batch at all. If they wanted to animate Thrawn, if they wanted to animate something, I'd be like, you know what, that could be good because the audience for the books and the animated stuff is totally different. Like, there's much bigger audience. I know where Dan's coming from. There's a much bigger audience for the animated visual stuff than there is the books. My issue with just the Ahsoka stuff is that it doesn't make sense for Bad Batch.
It makes more sense for people like Rex.
Yep.
And Cody.
Yep.
Who else is alive?
Any clone it makes sense for. And you could have a Jedi. I'm sure that's part. We've already had 2 Jedi in the show, and I'm sure it won't be the last time we see a Jedi because the show directly deals with Order 66.